Hi, and great to have you with us at Connect. We are very honored that you could join us, EstBAN could join us today and talk about the Estonian startup and investment ecosystem and the way it connects with the larger Nordic and global ecosystem. So, a big thanks from our side.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited for this.
Awesome. Um, let's start at, let's go back in time a little bit. Can you share your journey into the startup ecosystem? Tell our audience and community about what got you interested in startups and funding space.
Yeah, so when I originally started working, actually, I never thought about that I will end up working with startups.
Mhm,
So I used to study economics, and then I went to a very corporate route. I was working in market research for quite a few years. But being in this huge corporation where it took 6 months to get everything moving, I realized that this is really not for me. And about a bit more than 10 years ago, I started looking into what else could I do. And I kind of accidentally actually ended up volunteering for a hackathon.
mhm,
And when I met the people and when I met who are the whole community there, I realized like this is the kind of people I want to work with. And actually, end of 2013 also brought me to the Estonian Business Angels Network for the first time. So they were also looking for help in a quite
mhm,
analytical job to put their first annual statistics together. And I was happy to join that. And that kind of turned into a full-time job. And EstBAN, or the Estonian Business Angels Network, was started in the end of 2012. So the organization was about a year old. It was still quite a baby, slowly
mhm,
learning to walk, slowly trying to understand what should be done. So we started doing our pitch event, we started doing different kind of angels, different kind of network and so on, and trying to figure out what else can we do to support the angel investment community in Estonia.
mhm,
After that, I moved to the European Innovation Academy, where we were running entrepreneurship programs for students from all over the world. So in 15 days, we were teaching them how to go from having a problem they want to solve to
mhm,
actually pitching a solution to investors. So they had to do all the steps of the problem validation, customer validation, marketing, actually building some kind of tech solution. It was a very intense program, but it was also very valuable. And we did the programs in Portugal, Italy, Hong Kong, Qatar, China. And every year we had a bit more than 1,000 students who actually went through it. And the whole idea was that for them, it wasn't that much about, they had to continue building the same startup.
mhm,
It
mhm,
was more about actually learning how to do it and understanding what entrepreneurship is, building the network, and kind of changing the mindset. So that was really amazing to see. Then for a bit, I joined Civita. That's a consulting agency in Estonia. I was in their
mhm,
startup team, organizing the biggest idea competition in Estonia called Ajujaht or Brain Hunt and different kind of programs. And then a great opportunity came my way called Code So although in Estonia we have a lot of startups, we also have a problem with tech talent. And so the private sector, or especially the startup sector, decided to do something about it and build a new kind of school where we
mhm,
were teaching people to code, but not in a traditional way, in like classes and lectures. We had this kind of self-learning methodology where they had a computer program where they had different kind of tasks, so they had to learn to code through actually doing it themselves and learning the theory through practice. And for the last 3.5 years, I was one of the co-directors of Code. I think like the goal for us was to kick it off, figure out for whom the program is suitable, how the marketing and so on, and actually also develop our own study program. And we also managed to expand to Finland. So there's also a similar
mhm,
school in Finland. But after those 3.5 years, I felt that the school would need new kind of management to actually get it to other international markets and so on, and decided to move on. And then EstBAN came my way again, and I joined in the beginning of June as the managing director to support angels from now on. So it's been a journey of different kind of organization. I'm also actually at Terra Ventures as a venture partner. So I've been cooperating with VCs and trying to find suitable investments. So a different kind of touch points with startups and everybody in the ecosystem.
Awesome. What a diverse experience. Like it's really, really interesting. Starting with your corporate sector, like I come back from corporate sector as well. And I've worked intensively in marketing research with Kantar and Nielsen. Did more than 200 projects at one point in time in my life, from brand equity and everything, segmentation. So great. But I think what market research kind of provided me, and maybe that is reflecting in your career as well, is kind of an outside in perspective, that you're always thinking outside. Your focus is on the market and less on that I want to do it. It's more like, let's hear the customer what they want. And then you talked about EstBAN twice, like the first time in 2012. But I think I was surprised at the level of intensity you worked in that program, which you said was a 15 days program where you had 1,000 different students from all over the world. Like that's intense. That's, yeah, why?
That definitely was intense, and I
Yeah.
was responsible for the program, but we also
Mm,
had a lot of mentors and investors, both
mm,
from like Europe, but also Silicon Valley. So it was a really fun experience, but I think both from
mm,
the team side and also from the student side, it was super intense. But I think it was also a good experience for them to show like what the entrepreneur life might be, so that if this kind of stress is actually something that I'm willing to put
mm.
up with, if I see the results in the end of it.
Awesome, awesome. We see, like I run Founder Institute, so we have a slide in our orientation deck which says that this is a hugely tough program.
Mhm.
But under that, we have a disclaimer which says, guess what? Building a startup is 10 times tougher. So,
Exactly. So like you
so
get like a small bite of what your life might be. So I think it's a good way to decide like, yeah, do I want to sleep like 6 hours for the
mhm.
next 2 years or something?
Great, great. Great to have that level of intensity and momentum of the work that you have done in today's talk. Let's talk a little bit about the Estonian ecosystem. If you could give us a quick capture on what the ecosystem is like, both from the startup side and the funding side, and
Mhm.
how it has evolved over the years. So maybe that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, I think the Estonian startup ecosystem has developed so much in the last 10 plus years that I've been involved with it. Um, the base, I would say, for the Estonian startup ecosystem is Skype. So I think everybody hopefully still remembers Skype and how it was the main communication tool that we had. And as Estonians, we still proudly say that Skype was Estonian invention, although there was also Swedes and Danes involved, but we still call it Estonian. But what Skype gave to us was a lot of experienced people in tech sector and also
Mhm,
a lot of financial opportunities. So there are different kind of graphs that show like the Skype mafia of people who have started new companies who used to work at Skype in different kind of positions, and how many companies have come from those companies. So I think a lot of these entrepreneurs and the new unicorns that we have some kind of connection to Skype. So this has been the base of it. But what I've seen in the past 10 years, so Skype was sold in like 2011. So there was a lot
mhm,
of financial means that came from out of that. In the last 10 years, Estonia has definitely become the startup hub, because I think in Europe and maybe in the world, we have the largest number of startups per capita. It's more than 1,500 already. Considering our country is 1.3 million, that's a huge number. And also we have 10 unicorns. So that means that we have more 10 companies that are valued at $1 billion or more. Again, considering the size of the country, I think that's really amazing. And now also what we see is that both from the entrepreneurs, a lot of the entrepreneurs have actually turned into investing. So either like
mhm,
angel
mhm,
investors or VCs. So there is this kind of more funds available and more like smart funds available, because a lot of
mhm,
the investors have built their startups beforehand and they know what it means, and they're able to support their entrepreneurs that they invest into. And they also have large networks abroad when they were building their own, that can be really valuable. And in general, I think one big value for the Estonian startup ecosystem is also the size of it. So it
mhm,
is very supportive. There's different kind of organizations that support the startups. There's a lot of cooperation between the organizations. So, and a lot of those organizations have been either initiated or grown a lot in the last 10 years. So I think if I look back to when I started working with startups in like 2013, and now the ecosystem has completely, it has grown so much, and
Mhm.
it's amazing to see what has happened in Estonia.
Amazing. I think you started with Skype. Of course, I still remember its tune. It was a very distinct tune when you started Skype calls, but suddenly when um, over the last 3 4 years the space has been swarming with so many new tools which have now taken that space. So that happens, like somebody is an initiator in the market, but then that position gets taken. But then you mentioned a point of like Skype being a breeding ground for new ideas and the build and a backbone of the new ecosystem. I think this is something I was having a talk with Magnus Grimland. He is the founder of Antler. So he talked about his company Zalora, which became a kind of a university. Like when a company crosses up certain stage, then it eventually becomes a university. So you could start thinking of it as a university. Graduates are coming out and they are starting their own companies based on the learning. So I think we see that happening in case of Spotify here. We see that happening in case of Klarna. So there's a whole new breed of founders that are coming out from
Yeah.
these ecosystems, and that's great. I think for startup building with this kind of experience coming out. If you talked about that Estonia is you guys are great in the per capita domain because the ecosystem in the count based is not that large, the country itself. But how would you say, what kind of is, do you have some sort of a differentiation? Like how does it stand in committee of other Nordic countries or European countries? What makes Estonian ecosystem different and distinct?
Mhm. I think one of the key things for Estonia is the size of the country. So, as I
Okay.
mentioned, we have this 1.3 million, that if somebody starts building a solution here, they can
Mm,
never build it just for Estonia. So I
okay.
think this kind of mindset that always looking outside, that Estonia is a good testing ground to see like if
Mm,
this idea could work, who could be the potential customers. But it's never just built for Estonia, because obviously you will not come up with something that 1.3 million people will use. But even if you do, it's still not enough. So I think this again, this kind of outside view or
mm,
planning that okay, Estonia is first, but where will I go next? How will I get there? And already from the first day, starting thinking about that. I think that's really essential for
mm,
how Estonians are building their companies. And as I also mentioned, I think this supporter community, so the different kind of organizations that are supporting startups. Also, our government has built startup visa, so it's possible to bring talent in. So I think these kind of things are also possible in a small country, because I would say in the startup community, everybody knows everybody, or if you don't know, then you will know somebody who knows somebody, and
okay.
people are happy to make those connections with investors. If I'm not able to join your round, I will help you to find somebody who can, either from my Estonian network or from my network outside. So
Mm,
this kind of supportiveness, I think, is really essential. And I was just recently talking to a company in Poland, and they have
mhm.
some VC fund who has invested into that. And I asked them, like, okay, are they doing you like international connections to help with the next round? And they were like, no, because they don't want to do this. And in Estonia, if somebody would tell me that, I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Okay, I think great points. You talked about being having a mindset of being global first, like when we are developing apps, we say mobile first. So global first kind of a mindset, supportive community, and something you mentioned, I think which we are very much aware of, like the simplicity that the government has created in terms with startup visa. So it's really easy to interact with the Estonian startup ecosystem. But I think I'll kind of focus on your first point as well, like having an international mindset. Because even in Sweden, with a population of 10 million plus, we still have that challenge. Even Sweden is not large enough, or Nordic is not large enough for a scale up, for example.
Mhm.
So maybe for the early stage startup building, the ecosystem is cozy, but then you need to feel uncomfortable and leave the cradle very soon to go to other markets. So I think that that's great to hear. We see some parallels between Estonia and Sweden, because Sweden, compared to other larger ecosystems, is quite small. So, but great to hear that. Let's turn towards EstBAN and try to understand like how you said that the organization started in 2012, right? So tell us how you guys are structured and who are your key stakeholders? How do you operate, and what's your big vision?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, EstBAN started in 2012. In the
Mhm,
beginning, I think they had 25 angels who were
mhm,
basically brought together to a network. And where the idea came from was that as the startups were developing, there was also investors who actually wanted to invest into startups.
mhm,
But I think there was a lack of knowledge and also how to do it. And with angels, usually angels invest in together with others because it
mhm,
is a very risky time to invest into startup. So this kind of connection was needed. And I think in EstBAN we have like four key stakeholders. Obviously, first is angel investors. So it can be people who have been doing it 10 plus years, but also people who want to start investing into startups and want to learn about it, want to meet other people. So basically, just to dip their toes into the angel investment sea. Then we also have startups because I think angel investors are a crucial part of the startup ecosystem because
mhm,
they're the ones who usually invest in the first stages. They are the ones who make the riskiest investments. But without them, a lot of startups will not be able to get to the next levels. And so, in that sense, I think the angel investors are such a valuable asset to any startup ecosystem, and we need them because otherwise the ecosystem, I think, would not work. Then obviously we have different kind of accelerators, incubators, because again, they're the ones who are working with startups, but their startups will need investments. So, helping them to understand how they can support their companies becoming more investor ready, and also like creating those connections between the startups and our angels. And I think the fourth one are different kind of support organizations. So we do different kind of projects with other organizations in Estonia. We also do cooperation projects with other business angels networks in other countries because I think when it comes to EstBAN or like angel networks in general, what the main goal is to educate angels so they understand how to invest into startups, how to actually evaluate startups, what is the process, what is the legal side of it,
mhm,
how to support the startups and so on. And basically the BAN networks can provide this kind of education and the support and help to turn the angel money into more smarter money. So in that sense, that angel investors are making great decisions on who they're investing into, and not just spraying and praying and hopefully that will hit somebody. And and the second thing with angels, as I mentioned, is that angels often invest in syndicates or invest together with other angels. So
mhm,
it is crucial to bring together the community so that the angels meet other investors, learn from their experience, learn what kind of startups they have invested into, how they do it, especially for new angels, that they get to see what the process is like for more experienced ones, learn from
mhm,
them, and that's how they become the more experienced ones. And also with EstBAN, we're building this network in Estonia, but what we're also trying to do is to build this international network. So
okay.
we have a lot of cooperation with the Finnish business angels, with Latvia, Lithuania. I also started to do that more with Sweden. Because I think with angels also this kind of geographical location matters because angels usually invest into markets that they also understand. So,
Mhm,
investing into Finnish or Swedish market makes sense because the people are a bit more similar. But I don't see Estonian angel investors investing that often to India or somewhere in South America because they don't know the culture, they don't know the market.
mhm,
So in that sense, building these connections in our area is very valuable. So yeah, in general, I would say educating angels, connecting
mhm,
angels, and connecting them with other angel investors, but also with startups, and also helping startups understand what does angel investing also means and how to actually raise funds from angels.
Awesome. I think that's a great summary. If we kind of go to the angel side, I've also put a link to Connect's Investor Accelerator. You can also put any education link that you have. I think that's great for our community as well. So you talked about educating the angels, connecting them with each other so that the new angels could learn more from the more experienced ones. We had Lars here. He's a veteran angel investor in Sweden, like for 40 years. He was here in a talk like a couple of weeks ago, and we asked him like, how does he choose what to invest in? And he talked about that initial career. He kind of sprayed money into a lot of different areas, so there was a lot of focus, and then it was a challenge kind of building that kind of portfolio. So now he is much more focused. And that focus kind of one thing I remember very distinctly from that talk was that he said that I invest in startups where I can walk to a startup. So like that level of closeness we talked about. But you're absolutely right. It's also important to kind of have an internationalization focus because world is very much global. Startups are developing globally. So sometimes startups have a developer person somewhere else, a marketing person somewhere else, and then they're building and we are training in any case startups to go global. Estonia is training them to go global. So I think investment needs to be global. So great points over there. If we could go a little bit deeper into projects. You said you guys do some projects. What kind of projects are you talking about?
For example, if we talk about international ones, we have a
Mm.
project called Connect to Scale, where we
Okay.
have trainings for angels and trainings
Okay.
also for startups. So in the autumn, we're going to have a mature angel training. So it's meant for angel investors who have 5+ companies in their portfolio. So there we talk about more about exits, share like experience, how exit has been made, share
Mhm.
also like legal side. So basically like giving this kind of base knowledge and
Okay.
also giving the context of companies or people who can support them in the processes.
Okay.
And also with different countries, we have uh, trainings where we tell them what it's like to invest in Latvia, for example. Like what are the legal aspects of it? How do the networks work? How do startups work? What are the like taxations? What do you have to take into account? Or if you do like due diligence to a startup, like what is the process? How we should do it? What is a term sheet? What should you keep track of? So basically, all these different kind of parts of what it actually means to make an investment. And yes,
Okay.
some are meant for more experienced ones, but also we have some for the people who are just starting out. Because I think if you're just starting out, if somebody tells you like, okay, sign this term sheet, then you're like,
Mm.
okay, what does that mean? So what should I keep track of? So like all these different kind of parts to make sure that they have the knowledge or they have somebody to ask from. So in EstBAN, we also have some partner organizations that are actually supporting with legal and so basically our angels would also have partners if they're doing investments who
Okay.
are there to give them advice.
I think that's very well thought out. We have similar stage-wise kind of approach, like very early stage education, and then more hands-on. And if you are more advanced in your process, like how do you do syndication? So I think we'll be rolling that out in November as well, the
Yeah.
next batch.
In
But
EstBAN, we also do bigger syndicates. So usually in Estonia, we have some big startup events called Latitude 59 and Startup
yeah,
Day. And those usually have a startup competition that also has a monetary investment. A part of it is usually from EstBAN. So that means that we have a lead investor who's leading the full syndication process, but all the angels can join. They see how the startup selection is doing, what kind of due diligence process is done, and the amounts they can join those syndicates are rather low. So this is like the
okay,
first great step for people to actually have a chance in looking into angel investing. and also actually meet like experienced angels and see how it's going, and also learn from them. So I think this kind of supporting syndicates is also very important to actually support Asian investors and build the whole ecosystem.
Very good points. I think it kind of lowers the barrier to
Mhm.
investing, and I think that's all this is about. Because once you are on the other side and have started investing, you can yourself see the benefits and you kind of start enjoying. But I think going for the first time into the process, it's like it's the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so great to know and great work you guys are doing over there. If we take a pulse of the market right now, and we have seen that startup markets generally, globally, locally, regionally, have been kind of stressed when it comes to funding. How is the situation in Estonia, very, very broadly right now?
Mhm. I think 2023 was a
Mhm,
quite hard year with all
mhm,
the economical situation in the world and like everything that was going on. And I think that also made it really hard for startups to raise money, both from angels and also VC funds.
mhm.
But to be honest, I see quite a lot of positive things also in it, because there were still times before that maybe companies were raising money who should have not been raising money, or like actually
Okay,
got funds that should have not gotten funds. So I think my money was maybe too easy to get, or there was too much of it on the market. So in that sense, I think it has been like a good filter or a good way how
okay,
to wake up the market. And in 2024, the situation is definitely getting better. I just recently read that Baltic VC funds actually raised almost 800 million in 2023. So again, there's quite a lot of money on the market,
okay.
but I think it's not given away as easily. But there's definitely funds available, and I think there's also there already have been some great rounds, and I think there will be more and more of them coming up. And I think this kind of freeze in fundraising
Hmm.
has disappeared. So in that sense, there will definitely the market situation is better compared to last
Okay.
year, and I hope that there will be some great news of some great companies that have raised good rounds.
Awesome, awesome. And coming to the companies, because in Connect as well, we kind of see our ecosystem as four sides. We say that we have investors, we have startups who get investment from investors, but then we need to have mentors and advisors who support startups. And then to make it all work, there needs to be public sector and private sector partners as well. So we kind of define that. So we discussed the investor ecosystem now. Let's turn our focus to the startup side. Is that a direct focus for EstBAN? Do you do some activities for startups specifically? How does that work?
Mhm. So with startups, we have monthly pitching events. So that's like
Okay.
one of the key things that has been with this fund from the get-go. And the goal of those monthly pitching events, it's not that the startup comes there and gets a check or transfer nowadays
Yeah.
way. It's more about them to come to show to angel investors, get feedback, build their network and so on. So even if they're not raising funds at the moment, it's a good way how to start their fundraising journey. In that
Mhm.
sense that they get the connections. If maybe some of the angels are not interested themselves, they're easy to give that information to their other contacts and other people that they might know. So I think this kind of regular events where they can meet angels and also like practice their pitch, get the feedback. That's one of the key things. And we're also working with different kinds of accelerators and different kind of programs where we
Mhm.
again talk to the angels, talk to the startups to help them to become investor ready, especially like angel investor ready.
Okay.
So we tell them like what are the questions that usually come up when you talk to angels, like what do they want to know, what is key
Hmm.
information for them, like what should you definitely show, what should definitely talk about. So educating them in that sense. This is both done by EstBAN team, but also like EstBAN members. So basically, teaching them on how to present their cases to angels.
Okay. And I think that's really important because accelerators, I don't know how Estonian accelerators work specifically in Founder Institute, our accelerate, we run a global accelerator, the one that I run, but it's very much venture capital focus. So the entire focus is how do you prepare and fatten up the startup to go to a venture capital
Mhm.
ask. Uh, However, in many startups cases, venture capital is not the first door you will knock on. You will most likely go to the angels, and that's where I think accelerators are weak generally, because they don't they because venture capital is more like institutional money. It's money coming as a process to you, as opposed to angel money is more coming from the heart
Mhm.
and from the soul. So it's a different kind of money that comes in. And I think startups typically are not that well prepared. So
Yeah.
great to see that you guys are doing pitching events as one focus, and the accelerator connects as well.
Yeah, and I think also like how you work with angel investors afterwards, that's definitely
Mm,
different than how you work with VCs, and also like at what stage do you actually get angel money compared to VC money. So there is so many differences there. So I think definitely startups who are in the earlier stages, they need to understand that, and also how you pitch. Like you don't pitch in the same way to a VC fund as you do to an angel investor.
exactly, exactly. And I completely resonate, agree with that point. Like your pitch, even like if you, so there's an angel investor, there's a VC, but then there is grants as well. When you go to grants, you pitch in a very, very different way. So let's turn our discussion a little bit to the startup side, because you wear a lot of hats. You have been through a lot of processes, hackathons, programs, and all. Where do you think startups at an early stage go wrong mostly when they are presenting their case? And you can blend in your experiences from all these sides.
Mhm. I think one of the key things is that a lot of startup founders fall in love with the solution, with the not
Hmm.
problem. And it's such a common knowledge. And I think it's such a common thing that's always discussed in the startup sector, but you still see it. It's, a founder comes and I built this, but they don't actually do the whole validation journey, like validating the problem, validating the customer. And it's like, yeah, we built this, but if you start asking them, like, who are you building it for? Why are you building this? They don't know, or they're too afraid to go and ask because a customer might say that I don't actually want this, and then they have to start changing it. So I think still when we talk about early stage, quite often not understanding the market, who are you selling to, and actually talking to the market is one of the key things. And it's not easy. Like Estonians, in that sense, are also very Nordic. That we are maybe not that extroverted, and having to go out and talk with people and actually like having interviews and finding those people, it's not easy. But I think it's such an essential step of building your startup first in the beginning, but you also need to continue doing it all the time as you develop. This is something that often founders are missing, that they're building something, but they don't know who they're building it for. They don't know if the market will actually pay it for, and they don't know if they're building the right thing. And
Okay.
I think there's also a lot of startup theory that if you follow, there are ways how you can avoid failure in the future if you do these
Yeah.
validation steps. It might change your idea completely, but I think that's also actually a positive thing, so that you don't spend your time, your money, your team's time on building something that's actually not needed on the market. So yeah, I think this kind of lack of validation and lack of talking with the customer is one of the key things for early stage startups.
Absolutely right. You talked about startups being very much solution focused and then inside out focus. I think that's a key challenge. And you absolutely right that and times like accelerators are a great way to kind of build your startup because they have thrashed out a process for you. And if you stick to the process, there are chances that you will check boxes at least.
Exactly.
Which, if you are not doing in a structured way, you might miss doing things like you must be doing. Maybe you are just building the product and completely forget. No, you need to build the market on the side as well. Otherwise, who will buy the product?
Yeah.
But really great points on startup building. Let's swing the focus to the other hand. Where do you think investors typically go wrong when they are investing in startups? What are their one or two main challenges, which probably you guys at EstBAN are removing from their way and kind of, yeah.
I think uh, With angel investing, I think there's less of it, but I think there was quite a bit of angel investing just giving money to startups without properly analyzing them. So in
Okay.
that sense, and uh, angel investment also maybe got a bit of bad rep because like everybody were losing money or the startups who did actually do well. But I
Mm.
think also when it comes to like angel investors, already like obviously you're mostly investing into a team, but you still need to analyze like what they're doing, if the team is the right team to do it, if they're able to listen to you or listen to the market and change their idea if they're building something wrong. So in that sense, I think getting to know the team and also working with the team constantly. So with angel investing, I also think that it's not just that you give the money and you go and do this now. One of the original members of EstBAN, Marek Kiisa, once said that if we talk about investors, if they give like $3, one of it is money, one of it is their
Mm.
experience, and one is their connections. So in
Yeah.
that sense, that I think this is also something that investors can do wrongly. It's just like we give you money, now we go and build. But your value is also you supporting them building it and helping them maybe avoid some mistakes based on your experience and based on your network. And I think this is something that's sometimes forgotten. It's just like, I give you money, you have money now, you run. But do they know which way they should be running?
Very good points on the $3 analogy that you talked about, money, experience, and network. And I think that's very important. Uh, and many angels want to do that. That's why they choose angel investing. Otherwise, there are other asset classes where you could be very passive and
Mhm.
still make money. I think people who choose the angel track, they really have a burning desire to make a change.
Mhm.
And even if they are not doing the change from their own hands, at least they are guiding a few hands in making that change. So I think those are great points. Um, I think we are running at the close of our chat now. How could angel networks, if I take one last question, how could angel networks in Nordics collaborate more and make more opportunities for their members?
Mhm.
Let's discuss that. So I'll discuss, you'll discuss. Yeah.
Yeah. I think still like for the angels, the network is the key thing. So I think organizing different events where angels can get together, joining events in different countries.
Mm.
So as I said, in Estonia, we have Latitude 59, Startup Day, that are huge startup conferences. We usually also have Investor Day next to it. So this is the best way how to actually come talk with people who are in the same field or investing. And I think that is super valuable. Also study trips. So you mentioned in the beginning, actually EstBAN,
Mm.
FIBAN, LATBAN, LITBAN, and Slovenian Angels are coming to Sweden in the end of September. And the goal of it is to actually understand the ecosystem, understand
Mm.
different organization, but the main thing is to meet the people. So that if there's some good deals, that they could join that. And the last thing is actually sharing the deals. So if there is something that angels want to put money into, that they have the network to share with and find other investors from different countries also want to join. Because I think also from the startups, they are winning if they have angels from different countries. Because again, like with the market connections, with the market knowledge, with the networks, it's a huge win for them to have
Mm.
angels from different countries. So yeah, so events to build the networks, study trips, basically going for visits, because I think we can do a lot of things online. It's a great way to
Mm.
meet,
Mm.
but also I think physical meetings are still very valuable, and people like to meet face to face, have a glass of wine or a beer together, and that definitely brings people together.
Exactly, and absolutely, completely agreed with you. And I completely align with the point that it falls on angel networks to take the lead role in kind of build connections between the networks. Because if we guys are connected in a proper way, our networks will try to kind of learn from each other. So somebody from Stockholm can learn somebody from Tallinn can learn something from Espoo or some other areas, like completely different ecosystems, and there could be so many synergies, new areas where investors can go in. I'll just do a quick share of screen for some of the people who are there on the call or later. So Karin will be on this event. We have a regional angel meet happening. The date is not there, but the date is 26th October. 26 September
Yeah,
when we are
September.
holding this. Yeah, it's 5 o'clock in the evening. But then on Karin, we also have another event coming up from SWIBAN side in the morning on 20.
Yeah, on the 27th morning.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the morning. This is a very rough draft. We are still creating because Swiban is creating its own thing. So there are two regional angel network events which are happening. I will be there and coordinating this. Karin will be there from the other side. So these are great opportunities from angels in the Stockholm ecosystem to meet counterparts in Estonia, Finland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Slovenia.
Exactly.
All five.
So
Awesome.
like 6 different countries of angels together. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't get that kind of opportunities that often. So
Yeah,
definitely
yeah, yeah.
everybody who's able should join us.
So 26th September evening, if it's a pitch after work by Connect, and 27th September morning, it's a morning event around 10 o'clock by Swiban, which is a new organization that we are setting up. Great. Karin, thank you so much for taking time out today and talking about your own background and perspective on startup building and angel investing, as well as how EstBAN is doing great work in the Estonian ecosystem and the great work happening in Estonian ecosystem. It's truly amazing to hear another country how they are building an ecosystem with 10 unicorns. I kind of wrote here. Like, that's amazing for a small ecosystem. But thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And it was great chatting it with you. And I'm really looking forward to meeting face to face in Stockholm.
Awesome. Thank you.